Most photographers are taught to see other photographers as competition. Heck, most humans are taught to do that as well. Protect your secrets. Don't share too much. Don't trust the other people in your market. They'll steal from you. They'll get the clients. Don't let anyone else get ahead of you. But honestly, some of the best friendships, conversation, support, and growth in my career have come from other photographers. The good ones. The non-jerk, humble ones. That's an important caveat. This episode's a little different. It's the first time on the podcast that I've sat down with real photographers outside the Humble Togs Club. They're not students, they're not mentees, they're actually my peers in the industry. These are the people that I look up to the most. I've worked kind of not alongside, but in the same market, in the same town for over 20 years. This is the first time I've also had 4 people on a podcast. It's taken me quite a while to edit. Thank you for your patience. We have Sally Flegg, we have Luke Stambouliah and Kate Williams. I also really wanted Alex Vaughan to be part of this, but she had to pull out due to a family commitment on the day. Look forward to maybe speaking to her in the future. So yeah, we all work mainly as actors, headshot photographers in Sydney, Australia. Some people will call that competition, but that conversation is exactly why I think the whole competition mindset is broken. When photographers stop treating each other like threats, you can actually learn from each other, support each other, be inspired by each other, get ideas from each other to help you do what you want to do and also bounce ideas off to help them get to what they want to do as well. And building genuine friendships in an industry that otherwise is quite isolating, honestly. A lot of the times you're sitting here by yourself in a small room, retouching photos or taking photos and then coming back to your own space. So having community around you, I think, is a really valuable thing. I asked these guys how each of them got started. We talk about imposter syndrome. We talk about technical training versus learning on the job training, creative evolution, pricing, gear obsession, art school, actors, theatre photography, why most photographers buy too much equipment, and a whole bunch of honest conversations that photographers don't usually have publicly with their peers. So I'm really proud of this one. There's a lot of laughter, a lot of vulnerability, and honestly, it just felt really nice to hang out with some old mates. This is exactly the kind of photography industry I want to make more of. Welcome to Double Digits, the episode 10 of the Humble Togs podcast. So guys, this is a bit of an unusual episode. It's the first time I've tried interviewing this many people at once. We were actually going to have Alex on the call as well, but she had some family stuff to deal with. So this is Sally, Luke, and Kate. These are my peers, the people that I look up to the most in the industry. We all essentially do actors' headshots or specialize in actors' headshots. Sally, I think, has been doing it for the longest. Is that right, Sal?
Yeah, maybe. Luke, you're not far behind. And I remember Kate. I remember shooting you when you were starting up. It was ages ago.
Yeah, that was a good 12 years ago or something.
My first job was Star Shots at Chatswood, and that was in like 2 or 3 for a couple of years. And then the owner of that business was my business partner who I went and started the studio in Parramatta Road with in like 2007. So that's, basically 20 years. Anyway, what I was saying is I remember at the start feeling very without community. And I knew of you guys. I knew of Sally. I knew of Luke when you started, and then Kate more recently, and Alex as well, because Alex is kind of friends through my wife as well. And we're both foster parents. I really wanted to talk to her a little bit about that today, but never mind. But Sally, did you feel like you had good community around you in photography at all?
I did, but that was only because I went to a technical photographic school for 4 years. So I had a really great community of photographers from all disciplines of photography as well. Most of them joined magazines and newspapers. They were the last of the cadets really to go through that era. And I went freelance. I was one of the youngest freelance people I knew, but I also worked in a photographic lab at the time. So I was printing for a lot of freelance photographers. So I felt like I could ask them lots of questions.
Which lab was that?
That was Photocentric over in Lane Cove.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was a prosumer lab, so we had professionals and consumers, but they're all pretty pumped about photography.
Okay, here's a fun story.
Yeah.
That lab, it's on Lane Cove Road, right?
It's in the plaza.
In the plaza. Yeah. That was it.
No longer.
Okay. All right. There's a story that I can tell you from that lab.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It wouldn't have been you, obviously, but it would have been around that time, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003.
Yeah, late 90s too. I was there, late 90s.
So when I was learning photography on a film, I had a Pentax film camera, and it wasn't even a good camera. It was just like a crappy camera, I semi-stole from my brother. And I was taking photos like we all were learning. And back in film days, you wouldn't take a stack of photos. You just take, one photo of a leaf and then one photo of a thing. And I remember I put my roll in at that lab. Yeah. And I got back the photos, and they were some pretty nice, very thoughtful, this frame, that frame. Like I was really trying to get good at photography. And the person who printed in the lab wrote in my little little folder, "Your talent for light brightens my day." And I always remember that. But
that was me for sure.
Yeah.
That was me for sure.
Wouldn't that be funny to know that? I mean, I still have it somewhere. I could say to people that helped me get started. It didn't really. It was just a nice thing. It was more the actor friends that I was making at the time that were like, hey, can you shoot my actors' headshots? And I was like, yeah, I guess. Let's have a crack. So that's Sally. Luke, how about you? When you were starting, did you feel like you had a community around you?
100%. And for me, like Sal, I went to COFA. So I went to uni straight out of high school. I studied fine arts, and my background comes from that fine art perspective and that for 4 years. But I was already shooting semi-professionally from a very young age. My older sister, Olivia, who's an actor who knows you, Kurt, and your wife, and went to Nepean and the good old days. I was always kind of on a little bit of the back foot of her friends and colleagues. And that's what got me into portraiture, really, because it's what I was surrounded by, were people that were both performers and artists and everything. So from that young, very formative age of knowing what inspired me to take it into my degree, and then meeting people like Sal quite early on. I was like 18 and reached out to Sal, and we caught up for a drink at the beach. And it's like, that's just the kind of person that I am/was, but I wanted to connect, if that is your question. I felt like I did have enough people around me to reach out or cold call. This was pre-social media, so it was literally like, it felt like a pen pal, basically. You emailed somebody, they responded, and it was just, you'd meet up and go from there. But yeah, I've always felt like the community's around, and I've always also loved how female driven it is, because, you know, there are lots of male photographers, but the ones that I kind of have near and dear for me are women, and have inspired the whole time. So
again, at Star Shots, I was always the only guy around. And I love that. When I had my studio, I hired a number of women to do the admin stuff as well as the photography. And then I hired a couple of men, and they were duds. Like,
what are you saying, Kurt?
I had to fire them both after a period of time due to not being able to hold his alcohol on gigs. And the other was a bit of a story. It's a good one for you guys to know too. In an interview, I asked him the basic questions, and I said to him, tell us about a time you really, fucked up. And he was like, oh, I never fuck up. And I was like,
good for you.
Okay. At the time, he was like the best option for us. So we ended up hiring, but I just had that niggling thing of like, that's not a good move. And sure enough, like, he only lasted 3 months. To have that attitude of like, I don't fuck up is a big red flag. So I don't know why we hired him. And actually, funnily, because he was doing actors' headshots for us back then, this was when we were in Alexandria, and he took people up into like the viewing area we had. And some people that knew me well came down halfway through the session of like, this guy's trying to be really forceful at upselling the photos. Like, what's up with this? He was trying to make us money, obviously, but I was like, dude, these guys are actors. You just got to present the photos, let them choose what they want, and don't force them into... I think he came from more of that sales position, that kind of photography style. Kate, tell us what you felt when you were starting out.
I feel less so that I had a community vibe, but it's because I came from a completely different angle to what these guys did. Honestly, it's probably because I wasn't trying too hard to be a photographer.
Right.
I mean, I always had a camera. I was the kind of person at parties. And when I was at NIDA, I was doing stills. I was kind of behind the scenes BTS camera girl. And while I was at NIDA, I was living with a photographer, and he was the first person to say to me, like, you have an eye for this, you should do it. Which at the time I was like, I'm going to be Kate Blanchett 2.0. Thanks very much. Thanks, but no thanks. But then when I started taking more photos when I graduated, which just happened to kind of be headshots because literally every single person I knew was an actor, I still wasn't necessarily trying to do it full time. I was still chasing acting. But my best friend at the time, who lives in France, is a photographer. He went to New York Film Academy to do photography. And so all of the questions that I had as I was learning were mainly directed at him. So he was my community, but he wasn't right here. The people who were really my community here, these guys, I guess I didn't reach out to them because either A, I felt like I was like a new girl who shouldn't, or because I wasn't planning on making it a career anyway. And so I just kind of didn't feel like I had the need to. It wasn't really until I reckon at least 5 years into my career that I actually turned around and went, oh, this is actually, I should be doing this, because I was kind of fighting it for quite a long time. I felt like if I really engaged with photography, then that meant I had failed at acting, and I wasn't ready to face that yet. And then there was a day that I kind of woke up and was like, wait a minute, I'm like being paid to do another thing that I also love, which is also great. So I'll just do that. And everything became a lot easier after that.
Yeah. I was similar. I was an actor first, and then just was shooting to kind of support my acting. Luke and Sally, did you guys ever have that? Sally, let's go first.
Not at all.
Not
at all. I was always entirely on the other side of the camera. I grew up with a lot of artists, and that's probably why I gravitated more to shooting them. But no, I think what actors do is incredible. I'm in total awe of them. But I couldn't do it myself.
I don't really count myself amongst the actors like Kate or Olivia or my wife. You know, they're actors. I just put my hat in the ring for TV commercials and was in a musical once upon a time. So, you know. All right, let's go through now. I just want to spend a little bit of time with each of you. We did start a little bit with Sally there. Tell us, pick up where you left off, Sally, but where have you come from and what's led you to where you are today?
Right. Always liked photography. I was very lucky, I think, to find something from a really young age. I'd shoot all my mates when we were teenagers, and I guess I sort of started shooting their headshots because they were into the arts or their album covers, their creative material, and really loved it. And at high school, I just spent all the time in the darkroom as well. My teacher was like, if you want to make money and a career out of this, you've got to go to the Sydney Institute of Technology. And so I went there for 4 years, which is a really, really technical course. It was all film back there. It was large format cameras, shooting boxes of cornflakes, learning how to do advertising. You know, there's a forensic photography part of it. You do everything. But I was the chick that just wanted to shoot the artists. And I remember my teacher at the end of the course, he was like, we're going to give her the absolutely fabulous award because she's going to shoot artists and make no money. He actually said that.
Oh, my God.
He's like, you're going to be so poor. You're going to be so poor. And I was like, fuck you all. I'm going to, I didn't want to shoot boxes of cornflakes. They're really boring. And I'm glad I did. I've got to tell you, because my cohort, those that went into advertising are all out of a job now, all of them.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. That's where I started. So I went freelance, but there was a lot that worked on the newspapers and magazines. They had great careers for 20 years, but I've probably got about 3 mates that are still on some sort of news, or magazine team, but that's about it. So I'm actually really glad I went freelance.
Saw you at Emma Pask's wedding. You were shooting weddings. You've done a bit of weddings.
Paskies.
Prior to, I think, seeing you there, I didn't know that you'd branched out into something like that. Over your whole career, have you gone over into weddings? Have you done a lot of weddings?
No. I mean, I shot a few weddings in my 20s, and that was really to build up my kit because everybody paid cash for weddings. So I'd smash out, I don't know, maybe 3 weddings a year, maybe 4. And it was always for cool people. Like it had to be people that didn't want albums, people that wanted it simple, and I'd just give them the photos and they'd give me cash. And it was easy. What else have I done? Weddings. I have done advertising. I used to shoot Fashion Week too back in the days. Bit of advertising. But my favorite thing is portraiture. I did a bit of food photography as well. Because of that commercial training, I must say I am glad I did it, because if someone goes, can you shoot this? And they really want me to do it, I can go, yeah, I technically could, except for anything to do with heights. I'll say no to that. There's a few, I won't do underwater.
Underwater would be fun, right?
No, I think it sucks.
That's a no from me.
Right. Luke?
I'll try it.
Yeah. Sally, so you've always been freelance. Do you work from home? What's your structure of where you work?
I have in the past. I've had my own studios now for over 10 years now.
Right. And you rent the space?
Just fine, yeah. Look, I once did have a shared studio. It was sort of above a shop, but I don't want to rely on anyone else. When I had a kid, I had to have a studio. And I loved it. I was kind of like, why didn't I do this before I had a kid? And it actually is because of money. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
And you kind of ramp up, I think, sometimes after you have kids, because you feel like a bit of a provider, I guess. But no, I always wanted my own studio. I just always did. I remember for the course I did, I would go to people's studios, and whenever I was in that beautiful big advertising studio in Surrey Hills, I'd be like, I'm going to have my own amazing studio one day. I mean, I've never had like an amazing studio, because the advertising dollars of the 90s where I was training were amazing. These guys were, I'm not kidding, they were like $1 million a year incomes.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what their studios were like. But I got something, like a little sweet studios. But
yeah, where do you find yourself nowadays? Are you? I didn't know you had a kid. How old is your daughter
11.
Or son?
I've got an 11-year-old son.
11, right? Yeah. Great.
Not quite old enough to be my assistant. Soon.
I've put my 8-year-old to the assistant job a couple of times.
Very good. Train him up young.
Yeah. So where do you find yourself now with family life and with the next stage?
Just keep shooting. I want to shoot as much as I can. And my son's 11, so he's more independent. I've always shot sort of 5 days a week, so Monday to Friday. I won't really compromise my weekends anymore. I haven't done that for many years now. Yes, I'm a real 9 to 5er. During daylight hours, baby. That's me now.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, Luke, so we don't know each other that well. As I said, we've seen each other around and know each other through your sister a little bit. From what I see of you, it feels like your work is very curated and you go into a lot of awards and things like that. That's putting a lot of words in your mouth. Why don't you tell me from your point of view, tell your story a little bit.
It's weirdly not that dissimilar to Sal's, actually. Pure photographer in the sense that I don't have an acting background, but I grew up obviously with a sister who's an actor. My dad's a psychologist. So there was this kind of wonderful fusion, the importance of imagery, the importance of performance, the importance of psychology and human interaction and telling stories and all of that stuff. So I was obsessed with photography at school. I became the school's photographer. And then I went from high school to COFA, the College of Fine Arts in Paddington. I did my 4 years there and loved it because art history is actually my foundation. So outside of photography as a medium, that's literally my passion, my drive. And always what's inspired my work is that very conceptual art side of the craft, basically. And I've chatted with Sal about this many times over the years, but I always envied the idea of, being sat down in front of the camera and actually taught, like rigid, the process. All my friends that went through TAFE, they actually had that incredible, you either made it or you didn't because you were taught everything technical. And I wished in some ways I had that. I had the exact flip side where at uni, you either had the technical skill or you didn't. And if you didn't, you basically didn't survive and everything was conceptual. So it really sort of flipped things. It kind of pushes you to go, you either have to be able to shoot in a certain way and push yourself and try, or you basically didn't survive. So for me, it's helped, I think, and maybe that's why you might feel it's a bit more sort of curated or award-like. It's not, I don't have that kind of bravado, but I do feel like because of the background I had and the visual elements that I was taught, that's just what my eye is drawn to. And I think I've always been drawn to people and certainly actors because I've loved their very natural way of expressing themselves and having an incredible relationship with the camera. And we stop to think about how important that relationship is, that symbiotic relationship between actor and photographer, because you think about some of the most famous and iconic images in film history and art history, Marilyn and all of these people, it's often the photographer and the actor or the artist's collaboration that is really magical and can be lasting and lifelong. So I think that's kind of where my interest lay and still does, actually. And like Sal, I started my own business when I was young. I had early clients that would just pay me cash and I didn't even know what I was doing, but I knew I needed to just give it a try. And I was young, I'm talking like I was genuinely shooting working well-known Australian actors when I was about 15.
Oh, right.
It wasn't a career at that point because I'm still at school, but I started building my folio to get into uni. And then by the time I turned 18 and went to uni, I was like, I'm starting my business. And typical sort of Scorpio control freak, I needed to work on my own and, run my own shows.
Also Scorpio, yeah.
And it's been literally nearly 20 years. And I met Sal early in that time. Like I said earlier, I was 18 and wanting to connect with people who made a living out of this, because at art school, we were not encouraged to make a living out of commercial photography. And in fact, it's frowned upon. Even when I went through honours at UNSW, my cohort, the pinnacle is to end up in a gallery and not so much to earn money as a commercial photographer. And I've had this constant conversation with a lot of my lecturers and colleagues who I'm still friends with, because I totally disagree. I get paid to do something that I love, that I'm very passionate about, no different to when I'm exhibiting and no different to when I'm shooting film stills on television or for film. It's the same process. It's just we all have different avenues of paying bills and ticking boxes, and I don't think one outweighs the other. But unfortunately, in the art world, photography is perceived as very lesser, and that's just how it is. So you either kind of like sink or swim. So I've decided to swim a very long time ago.
Yeah, that's interesting. With both you and Sally, I never went to uni at all. Don't really know my way around really hardcore stuff. Actually, I went to film school when I moved to America, and I was going to go and work in TV and film, and lasted about 2 years, 3 years, and we had the writer's strike and that whole industry died. So that was my attempt at actually going to university and learning some stuff and getting technical. But otherwise for me, I've always just been, let's create good photos for people. But I have looked up to all of you guys when you do post something that's obviously really driven by art history, that kind of style. It's very cool, but I've never even tried to do any of that.
Well, look, I can say, and I know Sal loved her course too, I loved my course, best 4 years of my life in that sense. But for me, it was just right time, right place, right degree. Otherwise, I would have changed. But that's just me personally. So for me, it made my work what it is today.
Do you think at that age it's important and somewhat evolutionary to go to college, university in like your early 20s, right?
Yeah.
I was literally straight out of high school. I was 18.
So I think for me, when I got into my 30s, 40s, the idea of with my 8-year-old going away to like a 4-year degree was just untenable, you know. I've certainly heard of many people that sit up late at night and study psychology and things like that, but doing a film degree or, you know, anything like that is all encompassing. And acting, you know, you went to NIDA, right, Kate? So that years of being at NIDA, it's all encompassing. You don't do anything else. And I think that is possible when you're in your early 20s, but you get to your 30s and 40s and you've got a family and you're like, well, I can't really do that. All right. Luke, so that was a little bit of your past. Where are you now? What are you trying to achieve at the moment?
I am shooting every day in that sense. It's my number one. It's what I do. I don't have any backup career plan at this point, but I don't know. I very much live in the present when it comes to my work. I will get a job offer, and if it's something that I connect with, I don't just shoot portraits for headshots. My background is to exhibit, put exhibitions on, to also do film stills. When jobs come up like that, I feel like they're meant to come my way, and I'm 9 times out of 10 will embrace them and go, that's what I need to do for the next 3 months, or this is what I'm doing for the next 4 months. But in terms of my bread and butter and something that's been consistent for literally 2 decades, it has been headshots and photographing actors and corporates, and pays the bills, makes me happy. I work for myself, no complaints.
Yeah, awesome. Lead us in, Kate. What is your story? What has brought you to where you are? Obviously, you mentioned NIDA before.
Yeah, it's wild. These two stories are the complete opposite of mine, to think that you've been kind of doing that since you were 15. I have 7 years of uni under my belt with nothing to do with photography. It's wild, actually. I mean, like I said before, I always had a camera. I grew up making short films with my friends. So I think that was my kind of lead in, seeing life through a frame. But then, I did my first creative arts degree, and then I did a teaching degree, and then I was a high school drama teacher for 3 years. And then I went to NIDA.
Oh, cool.
Then I found photography. I was really 30 by the time it's actually something that I started doing. I kind of came at it then at 30 with this lifetime of visual stimulation in my brain ready to get out there. And so, I originally bought my first DSLR when I was at NIDA to make short films on. And that's when I actually started taking good photos, I guess. So I've never taken headshots on film, which I think you could probably tell in my shooting style.
I don't think I have either, to be fair.
Oh, right.
I was shooting film like when I was learning and printing in the darkroom. But at the time, I was printing the darkroom on a print, taking it home, scanning that print with my HP scanner, retouching it in Photoshop like 6, and then printing it again. Pretty quickly, I was like, this is a pain in the ass.
Wow.
Anyway,
that's crazy. So then I started with the headshots. And then after, I want to say about 5 years of consistently taking headshots and having quit my other jobs and it being my sole income, that was when I finally actually branched out into being a bit more creative and making my photos my own and actually exploring. Because I think at the beginning, I was just kind of like, this is what a headshot is. I've done it. Like I was having a great time, but I don't think I had really fully explored who I was or what I was capable of, like in the photography landscape. And then I started doing way more theatre stills, which is, even though headshots are my bread and butter, they're my like weekly 9 to 5, I think theatre stills are probably my favorite thing to do, which I guess really comes all the way back from acting, because I'm very much, it's just my favorite thing to be like, you got 2 hours, get the shot, and I can run all over the stage. And because I understand theatre, I guess, so intimately, I know where the next angle is going to be good from. And because I'm seeing it from a film point of view, I'm seeing it from a lot of different angles rather than a lot of theatre stills, which are often just front on. I tend to be kind of running around and in the action. I love that.
It feels like a dance.
Yeah.
I think it feels
really
like
does.
a dance to me when they're doing their tracks and their performance. Yeah, it's a really fun thing. And I miss it, honestly. I used to do a lot more back in Australia, but I did a few things in New York, but I haven't done much of that for a while.
Yeah, so then I'm mainly doing headshots and stills. I've done a couple of weddings now, which I'm interested in still doing, but same as what Sally was saying before, is I'm kind of only ever interested in doing fun ones. I always said I would never do weddings ever because I'm not interested in like, hi guys, can I just get you to stand? Thank you. Can I was never interested in that. But then I had some actor friends who were taking everybody away to the bush for 2 days and they were like, can you shoot it? I was like, I didn't realize that there's also another version of weddings. Like, yes, I'll shoot it if it can be my style, sure. So I've started doing them. I've got my first exhibition later this year. So it's kind of like I'm just kind of growing a little photography tree now.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Lovely, lovely. I want to ask you guys, because the main audience for this podcast is photographers that are generally up and coming that are trying to figure out their business. Sally, what would you give as a piece of advice to someone who in this modern age now, and just as a sidebar, are you guys doing like mirrorless these days? Are you still SLRs? What are you guys on?
I'm mirrorless, but it's only through being forced into doing it.
Right. Yeah. Luke?
No, I'm not mirrorless.
No.
I'm
and Kate?
DSLR.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm mirrorless. What forced you into mirrorless, Sal?
Canon does only really mirrorless now.
Sure, I guess.
Yeah. I held on to my last mirror camera and then it died like only a few weeks ago and I was like, fuck. And
I've never picked up one yet. I'm still just, I've got the cameras I've always used and I'm like, I don't really feel the need to, but the reason I ask that is that a lot of the people starting now that I'm, trying to mentor and teach have got a lot of questions and things about mirrorless. And I'm like, but I also say it's never about the camera. It's never been about the camera. Yeah. I'm here to help, people grow their business. What would you say, Sally, is a couple of pieces of your best advice that you would give someone, and not necessarily starting in headshots because not all those people are doing that, but what are some pearls you've learned over your years of doing this?
Don't buy too much equipment.
Yeah, I agree.
Just keep it so simple. I've never been an equipment junkie. Don't become one. Just very simple. Buy what you're going to need for your particular type of photography. And just shoot. You've just got to get out there and shoot and find your style. Once you find your style, start charging for it too. I know I am from that technical training background. And I must say that I'm glad I did technically train because there's less fear,
I would also say, and I absolutely admire you guys both that have done that technical training. I would also say, though, that some people, and me as well with TV and film, I felt like I needed to go to film school to be validated to someone to then come back on a film set and be like, well, I've been to film school. And what happened is I was on Blue Bloods and I left to go to film school, came back, and the person that was under me at the time had taken over my job, and then I'd kind of lost my position. Like I said, I absolutely respect you guys for doing that stuff, but I'd also say if you're someone out there that thinks maybe I have to go to art school to learn how to be a photographer, you can also learn a lot on the job, and I respect both paths there.
I think you could have learned a lot on the job back in the day. I think it's harder now. You used to be able to assist photographers all the time. Not many people have budgets for that anymore. That's something that I've noticed has changed a lot. There's no internships anymore at newspaper, There used to be so many great places you could learn on the job. And unless you know a photographer or a photographer will let you tag along, I think it's kind of a bit harder. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Have you had other photographers work with you, Luke?
Had assistance on bigger shoots. Obviously, for the one-to-one shoots, there's no need. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I get asked often for those sort of smaller shoots, but it's only for when if I'm shooting Kia or if I'm doing an exhibition, I'm literally working with assistants. It just makes the whole process of being technically proficient in the studio, if you've got a very small window of time and a large budget or whatever it might be, it's like the more help, the happier. So yeah, but I tend to agree with Sal that I think it would be challenging because we live in a very visual age and the whole social media thing wasn't around when we were starting out. And it's an amazing visual medium, but it's also a little bit lonely maybe if you're starting out because it is kind of relying on a lack of interaction. And even though I might appear a little younger, I'm old school when it comes to I'm the first person I never even knew Sal and I pen palled. Do you know what I'm saying? That's for me something that it doesn't matter how old you are, as I think the point I'm making. It's about personality and it's about what you need. I needed to physically connect with colleagues in order to improve and sort of navigate my way. Others might be very happy shooting, getting paid, and never needing to kind of connect with their colleagues in the same way. So that's my need just as a person, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm meeting a lot of people that are saying, there's so many people in my town. I have people in America and UK and all over the place. People saying there are so many people in my town. They're all charging like $50 for a photo shoot and they're just giving all the images away. And I'm trying to kind of help people understand that that's fine. They're not your competition.
Correct.
All right. So one thing I thought would be fun to do is I've got a bunch of questions and I thought rather than just me ask them one by one, we'll go around a little circle here. I'm going to ask Luke a question and Luke's going to ask Kate a question and around we go. So Luke, what's one thing you've noticed actors think that matter in a headshot that absolutely doesn't?
Being still.
Ooh, explain that.
You do not need to be still.
Physically, I don't want to blur the photo.
I am not a fan of
Nice.
So just breathe and move.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting. I've never thought about that as a direction, breathe and move. I mean, I guess I tend to do it in a different way, but I've never actually sat and thought about that. Yeah, interesting. Luke, you want to ask the next one?
Kate, what's the one thing that you obsess over that you are 100% sure your clients couldn't care less about?
Background.
Oh, yeah.
I think, I wouldn't say I obsess over it, but I'd say it's something that I pay a lot of attention to. I thought my clients cared about, but they really haven't noticed. Like, I shot in the same spots for a really long time, and when I started shooting at home, I was like, are people going to ask me, can't we go back to the lake? And literally no one noticed. Or I've given them the option, like on a piece of paper, on a PDF, hey, you can shoot in this location or this location, and they cannot tell the difference. And so I'm like, well, okay, it's just me
That's
then.
funny. I was talking to an agent the other day, and she said to me, oh, I don't like these busy backgrounds with, out of focus things and whatever. I just want a plain color wall. What do you guys feel about how many of your shots in a shoot you do with kind of interesting things in the background versus like a studio wall or a plain color? Sally, what's your opinion on that?
In the last few years, I've really changed my style. So I'm pretty fresh. I'm pretty simple, pretty clean with my backgrounds because I'm shooting mostly in studio with natural light and studio light, but mostly in studio. But I miss a bit of texture.
Yeah. Luke, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm a big fan of texture. It should never take away from the subject. But I do, for me, feel there's something beautiful when there is a little bit of, just a little something. You know what I'm saying?
Plain,
something. And even if it's subtle, soft, natural, neutral, I'm not into bold, bright kind of background stuff. Obviously, unless that's what the portrait calls for. But yeah, for me personally, I'm in the texture man.
Do you find, I said to you before we started recording, Luke, that I thought you were overseas, based in LA, and I know you've shot over there a few times. Do you find that the guys over there in LA and certainly in New York, they all have the coloured wall studio vibe, coloured paper? It's mainly because of the weather in New York. I'm like one of the only people that goes and like shoots outdoors. Everyone is like, why are you shooting outdoors? We want to go up to a comfortable studio. But the funny thing is, they're all literally just coloured paper rolls, all of them. And I'm like, a bit boring.
Yeah. It's, it's the Manhattan dream. It's like you need south-facing, all glass windows.
Right,
like,
all the glass window. Yeah.
If you don't have that, you're kind of screwed. But yeah, I know what you're saying. And the overseas market, certainly the US market, has its perks, has its point of difference. So does the UK market. Very different. They were still very traditional in their black and white portraiture for much longer than we even were. So a lot of my clients that I was shooting that had careers in both countries or were just working in the UK, and I'm like a black and white nut. So for me, that just felt like home. But it's very interesting how different countries, we followed America. America set the tone for full color, and the UK kind of went, I'll do it our way until I'm ready. So.
Yeah. All right. Did you answer that one, Kate?
No, I prefer texture as well. I prefer texture so that particularly I like there to be a difference in light on the background. So some is darker than, and so I like texture so that the texture can pick up the different bits of light, which is why I don't like paper rolls, because it just looks like that they've just been photoshopped onto a color to me. I don't like it. Which is maybe because I don't know how to light it properly because I have no technical training. Sally, do you prefer natural light or studio light? Because you said you use both.
Yeah, natural. I'm probably better at natural, but I'd certainly use studio too sometimes.
Yeah, fair.
Guys, I very rarely would pull out more than a second light. If I'm shooting, I'm always like a single light. Maybe I could be bothered like to pull around the other one if I really wanted to do it. But I love the look of just a single light on plain background, single light classic. Can't beat it. And a reflector, right? Yeah.
One light.
It should be a song. It's a Rufus Wainwright song. I'm a one-man guy in the morning. We should turn that into I'm a one-light photographer in the morning.
I hear you.
Yeah.
You show up to a shoot and your camera dies. What's your actual next move? And yes, even your backup is dead too.
Yeah, I thought this was a fun one. I didn't know I'd be getting it. I have absolutely photographed a headshot shoot without a reflector. And you all know how I think all of us are reflector whores, right? I once did a shoot in New York City of a guy I've shot a number of times. He's kind of a good mate. But I didn't have my reflector for some reason. So I used a white cushion from a couch. That's all I had. And I used the white cushion. So if I didn't have a camera, if I had to do that shoot with my iPhone, we would zoom it in. I probably wouldn't put it on portrait mode because you get that fake blur thing.
Are you serious? You'd still shoot?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I mean, in this make-believe land of not being able to whip down to actually get one from Nikon or somewhere. Like,
yeah.
I mean, back in the day when I was here in Sydney, I was in NPS, which I could call up Nikon and say, quick, I need another camera. But out there in the magical land of this idea, I think I'd just try to do it with what I had. again, I've always talked about this idea of it's never about the camera. So I think it would be an interesting challenge for me to grab some like kids, kit camera with a kit lens and be like, okay, let's see if I can do what I do with that.
Can I just tell you one very quick story?
Yeah, go, Sal.
It was when we had this teacher that was a commercial photographer at school, and I didn't like him much, but he told this one story I liked. He said back in the mid-'80s when he was shooting fashion, he had a huge client and they said, we really love the red eye. Getting the red eye on the models. And he was like, fucking hell, that's where the flash is too close to the lens. So it's a disposable camera. So he hauled all his equipment, set up his lights, pulls out his fucking like disposable camera with the flash and does the whole shoot with that. And they loved it. He said the moral of this story is take all your stuff, look professional, charge them top dollar, and then just give them what they want. Give them what they want,
Incredible.
That's funny. Good story. Did you have one too, Luke?
No, that was a pretty good one. Touch wood, I haven't had that experience. I think my instinct would be not to shoot. I'm like a refund or reschedule kind of guy. I don't know. I wouldn't have the balls to be like, I'm without my phone for $1,000. No, I'd be like, sweetheart, you get your money back and come back next week.
I think in real situations, I think we'd all do the same. Yeah.
I don't know what I would do if I was at a theatre doing stills or if it was a wedding. Then it's like, I don't know, it's now or never. So what actually do you do? If it's a wedding, I'm pulling my iPhone out. If it's a theatre show, I'm like, can I come back tomorrow? I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think this doesn't happen to us because we all do have our backups and whatever. And I've had cameras freeze up or shutters die in the middle of a shoot and you just have the other camera. It's fine. We all get on with it. It was a fun question though.
Okay. A photographer, dead or alive, you'd love to shoot alongside for a day.
Probably Greg Williams. I'm kind of obsessed with Greg Williams. I don't know if any of you know him. 90% of what he does is documentary style actor portraits before and during award ceremonies. So he's often with them at the hotels beforehand, getting a photo of them in their Chanel in the sunlight, being like, and then he gets them on the red carpet being like, oh, Greg, it's good to see you again. And they're all giggling with each other and then eating the hamburger afterwards, after the ceremony at Macca's. It's very actor-centric, really off the cuff, very playful, but his use of light is gorgeous. And he's 100% black and white as well.
Luke, you'd have some fans.
I do, except my dream was crushed when I actually got to work with one photographer that I obsessed by. But I certainly will not name who it is, but
it was me.
It's, it was the 90s.
It was Sally, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But my experience was it didn't live up to what I was hoping for at all. So, but you live and learn.
I think that's a really great point, and I like to say that as often as I can, that for all the people that look up to people in high places or whatever, often, like pretty much every time I've been in a situation where I've gotten to stand next to those people, like it's not that impressive, and it's usually either a bit boring and a bit arrogant or whatever. There's usually something going on, but there's so much smoke and mirrors and Instagram and all that stuff that I think many are heroes sometimes is not a great thing to aspire to. How about you, Sally?
So many. David LaChapelle, I would love just to watch his process. I mean, there's so many. Leibovitz would be amazing to watch. I loved her book, which is all about her process. I think Annie Leibovitz at work. I loved some of her stories. I've known people that have actually been shot by her and said she's really not that hands-on.
So it's not the idea.
Into each set and then just walks in, kind of presses the trigger and goes, thanks a lot.
I mean, that last one of Michelle Obama, it was on some kind of background and it was a really odd choice of pose. It was kind of like not even one of those ones where it's like she's doing something else and it's kind of romantic. She was just looking like she was awkward and half in a pose that wasn't even good. Right. And I was just like, I'm sure there's an idea to it. But yeah, did you guys have a listen? There's the second episode of this podcast is with Matt, who works at The Daily Show.
Yes, I listened to that one.
Story?
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't, go back and listen to it. It's a great story. He's a photographer at The Daily Show, and he takes photos of the people that are on the show. And his Achilles tendon went out. He had to be off work. And the next week that someone was coming in was Annie Leibovitz, and he didn't get to be there because he had an injury. But I was like, what do you do as a photographer to be like, I've got to take photos of Annie Leibovitz? Like, that's an insane thing.
Stressful.
Funny. Who are we up to, Kate?
Luke, one non-photography influence that shaped your style?
Probably the Renaissance, because I'm all for those kind of classic, artful, painterly portrait style that's not photography, obviously, but it's something that I love and kind of maybe admire in other people's photography too. That's sort of, very duotones or monotones that period of art is something that's non-photographic that I just love, that inspires photography for me. So Are you chasing consistency or evolution right now, Kurt?
Oh, it's a good question for me right now, honestly. It's such a dichotomy of those two things all the time, I think. You're always chasing consistency, as you were saying, Luke, often for the money, to just be like, I need bread and butter income coming in. So being consistent of doing something there is that. But I'm always drawn to the evolution, to like, what am I doing next? What's the next part of the studio? I had this phase where I was like really trying to get into family portraiture and things like that. And we were really working hard so I could get to a point of selling the studio to then move overseas. And then that didn't happen. We just kind of shut it down. It was difficult to figure that out. But certainly in my life now, I'm certainly chasing consistency to try and earn the money to the bread and butter thing. But my heart is always in the evolution place of like, what am I going to do next? I'm building Humble Togs Club. How am I going to do this? I'm learning all these new skills. And sure, I'll go back to the consistency of doing headshots. But honestly speaking, I don't shoot a lot anymore. I'm just working harder on this stuff, and I shoot a little bit. But yeah, that's the answer for me. That was a fun one. Sally, have you got a good answer for that one?
Probably just keep shooting. I want to have a bit of fun with sets. So I've got a set designer I'm working with to try to build some more sets. But, that's budgets and yeah.
There was a guy from the New Theatre who did all the sets for the New Theatre years and years ago. But it was a fun idea to be playing with someone else collaboratively in that way.
Fully.
To do something that isn't just a plain background in the studio.
Yeah.
We did Pasky's album, Some Other Spring, where she was sitting on the chair. That was in the back of my makeup artist's house.
I loved that. That was so beautiful. I remember that shot.
That chair, it came from a hair salon in Norton Street that we walked past and saw it. And I knew that the name of the album was Some Other Spring. So we were thinking about all sorts of ideas with flowers. And we did a couple of shoots, honestly, that ended up in the trash can. We're like, that's not good enough. And then we saw that and we're like, what if we got that and put it in like a field or whatever, and you were sitting on that, and that kind of came together, and I love that stuff. But it's very, very rare in my world that I do that kind of stuff, honestly. Kate, did you have an answer for that one? You wanted to throw in the evolution or consistency?
I'm definitely always looking for evolution in my editing, because there's just always something more to learn or something to be better at with editing. So I think that's at the moment where I'm...
Is that like in the retouching, you mean?
Exactly, yes. Retouching and colour grading.
So what kind of faces do you secretly love photographing most?
I'm going to be a bit mushy, but the faces, there's been certain people along my career, I dare say you guys have the same, there've been certain people that really just stick in my mind as being someone who walked into the studio unassuming, not that commercially pretty, whatever, handsome, but just during the shoot, you were just a bit like, this person is so amazing, beautiful, interesting. And then also my favorite thing, I've said this before on the podcast, but my favorite thing is when people come to me and they don't feel like they're photogenic. They'll even say that to you, like, oh, I'm not very photogenic, or I've got one eye. People that always come in and have to feel like they have to explain or apologize to you before you start shooting that they've got something wrong with them, so you don't, vomit from noticing it during the photo shoot, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
you guys have that?
Always.
Yeah. And I love when people come in and they'll say something like that. I've got one side, I don't like this side of my face. And you're like, great, let's do it. And if I can get them to see themselves, showing them that's not true, that's one of my favorite. Sally, do you have an answer for that same one?
I mean, what you're talking about there is really interesting, because I think it's the X factor. Like when somebody walks in and they've just got something, you don't know what it is. It's not like about being beautiful. It's like that camera just eats their face up.
Yeah, you can't even tell when you're chatting to them for the 15 minutes beforehand until you lift the camera up and then you're like, what's happening? Yeah, totally.
What?
Yeah.
What's going on?
It's special. It's special. Yeah. It's rare and it's special, I think. It's super rare.
Totally.
Here's a quick one for you too, Kate. Do you think, if you feel that X factor, do you think someone like a casting agent and a film director would feel the same X factor from the same person on a different day with a different camera setup?
It's interesting. My instinct is yes, because a camera is a camera. I quite often say this to actors who are not really thinking, and I explain to them, this is the same as film acting. And the eyes are the windows to the soul. If you're not thinking anything, then there's nothing for me to photograph. So instead of thinking like, this is my smile, think about trying to make me smile, or why am I making you smile, or are you flirting with me, or whatever. What I'm saying is a video camera is going to pick up the same thing as a photo camera. Then yes, my instinct is if I can see it through my lens, then a DOP is going to see it through his as well, I think, probably.
Interesting. Sally, what's your this always works reset when you're not feeling like you're nailing a session?
Laughter. Trying to get laughter. Yep. Just taking the pressure right on off everybody.
What about a lighting setup? If you're trying to thinking like this isn't working, like what's the thing you go, this always works for me, I know it works?
I'll move them on to the next set.
Yeah. Right.
Like, because, like not all lighting suits everyone. I've always got a few options ready to go and we just move it around.
How about you, Kate? Do you have a go-to?
I would say the same thing. I'd go to a new location, get them to change the outfit, and I'd change the subject we're talking about, literally just like turn the page and, refresh everything.
Yeah. You're on the same page, Luke?
Same page. I tend to reset by getting them and myself. We close our eyes, take a deep breath, and then they just open their eyes to camera, and it's something they can switch off because often it's more cerebral for them because so much is happening that they kind of put too much on themselves to get it right. So my way of doing it is just to down tone. So we literally close our eyes together, take a moment, reset, and that generally helps.
Yeah. This is a quick one for all of us. Music on set or silence? Sally?
Pump up the jam.
Pump up the jam. Pump up the jam. That reminds me of that Kunk on Earth. Have you seen that? And there's this whole bit about pump up the jam. It goes for minutes. Anyway, Kate, your music on set or silence?
I have silence 90% of the time, I think. And if I have music, it's pretty quiet because I talk a lot. I'm just not like I am the music. I don't shut up the entire time.
Yeah, Luke? Yeah.
Yep, SBS chill.
Right.
Does
chill. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
I certainly have a PG list that I play for anybody that's under 18. Like, I play gangster rap. No. But then sometimes I get so sick of my gangster rap that I make them put something on. I go, okay, I'm sick of all my music today. You have to play the songs, and they have to play the songs. And I find so much new music from my clients. They put stuff on. I'm like, this is awesome. So you can find lots of new music through your clients.
My playlist is like musical theatre, movie soundtracks and movie scores. But like I'll throw on like Legally Blonde, which are like kicks as a soundtrack, like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's fun.
That was all. Would you go back to shooting film for actors' headshots? Here's a fun one, Sally.
Never. No, done.
I never did a
I feel like Luke would.
photos that I take in a session.
I'm a total yes.
Wouldn't you,
Come on,
Luke?
do it in 24, 36 frames and you're done. Heaven. So happy.
I mean,
that's what I love about it, and I love the quality to it. I genuinely, and Sal knows this, like I will still manual focus because I just love the challenge. So I'm a weirdo. I'm a total weirdo. And I'm not talking on like, 5.6. I'm doing like 1.4 f-stop. Shallow, get the eyes right. And I'm like, done.
Incredible.
That's me.
Part of wanting to work in TV and film is I actually wanted to then be like a focus puller, the first AC that learns the focus pulling, and I was really fascinated with that and really wanted to work my way up to that. I got onto sets and I was a loader, which is 2 stops down from a second AC and the first AC. Yeah. So I had a bit of way to go and never got there. But I love that idea of being the person that's literally rolling with the focus while there's moving parts and the steady cam or whatever. It fascinates me, that idea. Sally, what is your unpopular photography opinion?
That anyone can do it.
Okay.
Nice.
People don't like it. People don't like it when I say that. I think it's one of the most accessible art forms. Anybody can do it. Photographers go, no, they can't. I go, they can.
Yeah, it is.
Anybody can do it.
My 8-year-old, I gave the camera the other day and she was like interested in playing, and I believe the same thing, yeah. Kate, unpopular photography opinion?
For portraiture in particular, I think my unpopular opinion is that this is a good photo. I'm so sick. I'm so sick of every Hollywood photo being like, hi, if you could just do literally nothing with your face, that'd be great. We'll put on cover of Vogue.
Oh, yeah, like in editorial stuff?
Oh, my God. Yes, it drives me nuts. Like, I understand looking hot.
Doing nothing with like half an eye closed isn't getting it.
Kills me.
Luke?
I would say it's perception of it as a hobby, not a career, I think is something that it should be okay for it to be a career. We always have to justify that it's not just a hobby, it's actually a career and something that you can earn a living from. Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, you're a photographer. That's great. So what do you really do? It's like, okay.
Oh, right.
Of course.
I mean, I feel like the actors suffer from that one. I feel like the photographers do a bit better on that, yeah, that's a tough one. Sally, what's something you're still trying to figure out?
Landscape photography.
Ooh, okay.
I'm so bad at landscapes. I can't physically do it. I can only do portraits. I go like this and I go.
You mean landscape framing?
Landscape.
Yeah.
Or you mean landscape photography of landscapes?
That way.
Just
landscape.
framing. Right. For actors' headshots?
No, just, for anything.
I do horizontals all the time.
I know, but I don't.
That's awesome. Kate, what about you? What is something you're still trying to figure out?
I think how to get a client that's going to pay me an outrageous amount of money for doing what I love. That feels like there are these steps, these thresholds. And I'm like, the people that are here are not any better. They just knew the right person, or they,
totally.
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Well, again, I think going back to what Sally said earlier on, it's just doing the reps. And these days, like I said, I don't put much marketing out there, but random people will just come and ask me, can you do this? And I'll throw a number at them and then they'll just pay it. And I'm like, this is great. It's not always that easy.
Yeah.
But just put in those reps and get enough people out there that respect you and whatever. And yeah, there's so much work for us all.
Could I just put something in on that as well with the pricing thing, Kate? I think it is really hard. But I got a business manager that pushes me every year to take up my prices. She's great. And it's almost like if it comes from someone like that, you listen to it more than anybody else.
Is that a photography mentor or what kind of person is that?
She is my accountant, but she's a business manager that sat down with me and just redid all my books. And she just goes in on me about things because I'm a small business. So she gives me kind of more small business mentoring training. It's great because it's an outside perspective on a small business because she's not just talking to you like a photographer, but she's like, your service is good. Why aren't you charging a bit more? Or why aren't you doing this? And I go, I love that
interesting.
When it comes from just a bit outside of the industry and someone that knows what they're talking about. She goes, so I just want to give that little bit of advice to any photographers out there to get. Yeah.
I love that. The hard thing about that is that it's like if actors are your mainstream, it's like they have a threshold because they're poor actors. So it's like this
outside of that, you know what I mean? You might think maybe I open up.
Yes, that's
to
my
other
point.
things.
Yeah, I want those people that aren't actors.
Yeah.
There's a member in the club who I interviewed, and her main thing is dating photography. That's what she does. That's her whole brand is dating photography. Essentially, that's headshots, right? Dating profile photography.
I was thinking of doing that. I love that.
Essentially, that's headshots. It's just headshots for people that are not as good at doing it as actors.
Like a Tinder profile.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I thought you meant when people were dating, you'd photograph them dating.
Yeah,
that'd be a bit hot
making
and
them
sexy.
still look casual.
Okay. No. I'm talking about like for profiles. Yeah, profiles for like, because a lot of guys are out there like who the best photos they got with their iPhone or whatever. So she'll go and do headshot shooting for people for their dating profiles that doesn't look too cheesy. It just looks nice, and that's her whole business. And I'm like, dude, there's so many little niches we could all go and chase.
I love that.
I did think of the thing that I wanted to say to Luke before. Back in the day, do you remember Patrick Jones, Sally?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
I went to him in like 2000, 2001, got my headshots done. They were black and white. I paid $500. I remember it was $500 and it was 2 images and I didn't get anything other than 2 prints of that image that I could then go copy at Jungle Boys. Didn't get the negative. So when we're all here thinking like, what about prices? $500 was the minimum 26 years ago. Minimum.
That's
right?
mental.
He was top of the game.
He literally photographed everybody. He was like the male too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thanks,
Thank you
Kurt.
for being open and humble and awesome. So guys, that was quite a feat of editing. At the end of the episode there, we didn't really wrap up as neatly as I thought we did. And we just started talking about some other things. But thank you for listening to episode 10 of the Humble Talks podcast. That was a great chat. I really got a lot from speaking with all those guys. I really love their individual styles. If you go and look at their website, I'll leave all their links in the show notes. Go check out each of them as a photographer. It's interesting to see the different styles that we're all doing the same type of work, but come at it from different angles. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to share this with another photographer or anyone in the world, please do. Love some more reviews on the podcast. We've got 10 episodes so far and we'll keep going. Please leave a positive review, write some words. That really helps us get started. And if you'd like to check out Humble Talks Club, my community for photographers who aren't being dicks to each other, it's a rare thing, guys. Go to humbletogsclub.com. Again, check out the links in the show notes. Thanks a lot, guys. Keep chasing awesome and see you on the next one.